Just a reminder to vote in this week's Locals poll, where you decide what deck I take to Locals every single week. Without any further ado, I hope you enjoyed the video.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and today we have the deck profile for the deck we took to Locals this past week, being Cipher. We actually did a lot better than I thought we would. Third place, we had 2 wins, 1 loss for 3 rounds, so that's not bad. But yeah, here's a cut to what the deck looks like on paper, then we'll get to the card by card. Alright, so starting off, we have the Cipher Biplane. So this is one of the best monsters in the entire deck. So basically what you can do is, when you summon a Cipher monster, you can special summon it from your hand, and then you can target 2 Cipher monsters on the field and make both of their levels become 8. The level modulation effect actually is not once per turn. Only the special summon is. So yeah, that's really because if you look at the text here very carefully, it says once per turn you can target 2 Cipher monsters, you control their level to become 8 till the end of the turn. Then it says you can only use each of the following effects of Biplane once per turn. The summon, and then it does get a search effect if it's destroyed, but that normally doesn't come up very much. It did once, I think, during Locals. It got negated and destroyed by something, so I just used it to search a Raptor, which is the next monster we're going to talk about, Cipher Twin Raptor. So if your opponent has a special summoned monster from the extra deck on your field, it basically becomes a Cyber Dragon. And then you can discard a card to special summon another Cipher monster from your deck, mainly going to be the Biplane here, to help make your rank 8 monsters, so you can try to OTK your opponent. Next, 3 copies of Cipher Wing. This is a nice extender. So basically you can, if you have another Cipher monster on the field, you can just special summon it from your hand, and then you contribute it to double the levels of all Cipher monsters. So that way you can turn a level 4 into level 8. Next is Cipher Mirror Knight. This is kind of like a hand trap kind of monster, where basically if your Cipher monster gets destroyed, you pitch it and another card in order to get that monster back. And then in the end phase, if it gets sent to the graveyard that turn, you get to search any Cipher card from your deck to your hand. So that's really nice, just being able to get that search for Raptor or Biplane or whatever else you want. That's always really nice. Then we have 3 copies of Cipher Etranger. So this one, when it's sent to the grave, you get to search a Cipher spell or trap from your deck to your hand, so that flexibility is really nice. And then it does have an effect where you can attach it to a Cipher Xyz monster you control, but I usually don't use that effect very much, because ideally the game's not going to last long enough for that to matter. And then for the last monster of the deck, I am running 3 copies of Honest, just as a generic light support, because, yeah, it's funny. And it can be used both offensively and defensively, so that's really nice. So that's actually it for the monsters, just a very small, concise package of monsters. Next, moving on to the spells, and first we're going to cover the end archetype spells. So the first is going to be Cipher Interference. So this is a continuous spell, and the whole gimmick of Ciphers is stealing your opponent's monsters and changing their name to where it's the same as your monsters. And Cipher Interference, when you have 2 monsters with the same name on the field, you can double your monster's attack during the damage step once per turn, which of course can help facilitate OTKs. Next, I am also running 2 copies of Double Exposure. It's not a Cipher card by name, but it does have Cipher in the card text. So you can have, like, say, 2 Cipher Wings on the field. You can double their levels, and then you can actually, at the start of the battle phase, you can target any 2 monsters on the field, including a Cipher monster that you control, and they become the same name. So this can facilitate the Cipher Interference. Next, we are also running 3 copies of the Rank Up Magic Cipher Ascension. We're running 3 so that way we can try to see it as often as possible, so we can use the Etranger search on Cipher Interference instead of this. But if we do draw the Interference and not this, then we can use the search for that. This is a quick play, allows us to rank up during the main phase, and it also gains 500 attack for each level 4 or higher monster you control. So it can really help OTKs after the stealing. Next, going to the generic limited spells, we have Monster Reborn. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. 1 for 1 to pull an Etranger out of the deck. Rhoda to search for a Mirror Knight. Call by the Grave to combat hand traps. Foolish Burial to get some of your search effects. And Reasoning in order to try to get a free special summon / bait Ash. And then next, moving on to the final generic spell we run, we are running 3 copies of Pot of Desires. And that's because aside from the limited spells, there's only 1 card we're not running 3 of so far, being the double exposure. So the presence of all those 3 ofs, it just kind of incentivizes the use of Pot of Desires, because that way you can try to draw into what you need. And I actually got a really clutch Desires. I drew an Honest and something else, and the Honest is what won me the game. So that was really fun. That's going to be it for the spells. Now moving on to the traps. We're going to be running 2 copies of Cipher Spectrum. So Cipher Spectrum says is a Cipher Xyz monster you control that has Xyz material is destroyed. You get to revive the one from the graveyard and get a second one from the extra deck for free. So, yeah. But I am running it at 2, though, because it is a little situational, because you got to let your monster be destroyed. And then running 3 copies of Cipher Bit. So basically what this does is you can target one of your ciphers and attach this to an Xyz material, and it protects it from being destroyed once per turn. And if you notice, this card is not once per turn. So you can actually use multiple of these to protect your monster over and over again. So yeah, that's going to be it for the main deck. Now going to the extra deck. So running 3 copies of the OG Galaxy Eyes Cipher Dragon. So this is, of course, the main focus of the deck. So it's just a generic level 8, or rank 8. Just requires any 2 level 8s. And once per turn, you can detach a material from it to target an opponent's monster and take control of it, and its name is treated as being Galaxy Eye Cipher Dragon, and its attack becomes 3,000. And then, once you activate that effect, the only card that can attack directly is this. So there is that. So you do have to be careful if you're trying to steal a lot of your opponent's monsters in 1 turn and try to attack them directly. You can't do that. So you can only attack directly with the monster that activated its effect. Next is 3 copies of Cipher Blade Dragon. This, of course, allows you to destroy your opponent's cards. Just rank up using any rank 8 Galaxy Eyes Xyz monster. And it does have Cipher in the name, so that's why I'm running it. And then if it's actually destroyed, then you get to target the OG Cipher Dragon and special summon it. So that's really nice, just being able to try to keep your resources so you can try to push for big damage, because these are just a big bunch of beaters. They don't really run negates or anything. They're just big beaters. Next, running 3 copies of my favorite extra deck monster in this deck, Neo Galaxy Eye Cipher Dragon. This is, of course, what you summon off of the Rank Up Magic Cipher Ascension. It's a rank 9 with 4,500 attack. And then once per turn, you can detach up to 3 materials from this card to take control of that many monsters your opponent controls. And one major thing about this one to note is that the stealing effect actually does not target. So that's really nice. And then with the Rank Up Magic, it'll also be getting an attack boost, which again just kind of helps for OTKs. So Again, just a really big beater deck, but it's really fun. And finally, running 3 copies of Galaxy Eye's Cipher X Dragon. So this one, you can just use it using any Cipher Dragon monster you control. So with the original Galaxy Eye Cipher Dragon, you steal an opponent's monster. Its name is treated as Galaxy Eye Cipher Dragon, and you just slap this on top of it. And then you can also detach 2 materials from it during your turn to make it to where your opponent cannot target light monsters you control with card effects until the end of your opponent's turn. And then during the standby phase, you can return a rank 9 or lower Xyz monster to your extra deck, and then use this as material to summon it. So you can use it to recycle your Cipher Dragons from the graveyard, kind of similarly to how Cipher Blade lets you special summon it, but this one actually gets you the material, so it's kind of better than Cipher Blade in that aspect. Not only having more attack points, but also being able to get the Cipher Dragon back with materials. And then I do have 3 empty sleeves here as well. These are going to be for a playset of Hip Hoshingen. So all the monsters in the deck are light, of course. And so Hip Hoshingen is just a generic Link 2 option to try to boost our dragon's attacks to where that way we can try to OTK that much easier. I don't physically own any copies yet. I've got some on the way, but a friend of mine at Locals let me borrow his, so shout-outs to him. But, yeah, that's going to be it for the deck profile. Again, just a very simple OTK-style deck. Not really complicated. You're just making a rank 8, stealing your opponent's monsters, doubling your attack, and attacking for massive damage. And, of course, some utility cards like Honest can help with that as well, being able to increase the damage output. But, yeah, it was a really fun time. The deck performed much better than I thought it would. So, yeah, pleasantly surprised. Still hoping for some new Cipher support in the future. And if we ever do get any, I will be more than glad to take this back to Locals in order to try it out. But, yeah, like, subscribe, vote in the Locals poll, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time.